And welcome to the Discovery Series video with SolarWinds. I'm Head Geek Leon Adato, and with me is Technical Content Manager for Community, Kevin Sparenberg.
Hello.
Hello. Again, we've done a few of these. You can find them online.
Yep.
And in this one, what I want to talk about is that despite all the protection and the optimization that cloud offers, change control is really still a thing.
Yeah, change control is incredibly important, especially when you talk about minor changes that may ripple.
Yeah.
I think you and I can both speak from experience that a little thing, a small change that you didn't think was going to affect everything can lead to a very, very bad day.
Right, but exactly how bad sometimes we overlook.
Yeah, so we've got some statistics here. So in August 2018, there were 9/11 outages, so emergency call 911 outages in 6 U.S. states due to an inadvertent switch configuration change.
Right.
That's bad.
That was really bad.
That's a bad day if it didn't involve emergency services.
Right.
But since it did, even worse.
And of course, a lot of people remember in March 2019, Facebook took an outage for a couple of hours, and that was due to just a configuration change.
Yep. Yeah, and then I love the way this is described. November of 2019, there was a likely routing change that left many state agencies unable to use their computers.
It's not the network.
It's never the network.
Okay. So change monitoring has been a staple for network configuration for a really long time.
It has been. It's something that we've both dealt with. I know whether you write your own Python scripts or Perl scripts or whatever, and you pull these things down, or whether you have a tool to do it for you. But capturing those configs and doing deltas on them is basically part of the network engineer's job.
Yeah. Yeah, again, we've said before that performance may get you promoted, but being able to back up and restore is how you keep your job, and that counts for network engineers as much as it does for database administrators or anyone else. But I'm surprised when server admins will either say, I can't do that, it's too hard, or that's not something I need to do.
Or they think it falls into their general backup scheme.
Right.
Which it can, but do you really want to restore a whole computer for one change in an XML file that's buried somewhere on a hard drive?
Right.
No, not if you can avoid it.
Right. It ends up being, and we talked about this in another video, the RPO, RTO, the time to restore is so great that it exceeds the value of doing it, that I'd rather just, come back from a snapshot or do something else rather than trying to, restore that, trying to find that one needle in a backup haystack or whatever it is.
But you're right. Generally, people ignore this because, like you said, it's either difficult or if you are, well, let's take the scenario. Microsoft has said there's actually more, in Azure, there's more people spinning up Linux than they're spinning up Windows now.
Yes.
So, yeah, I knew that would make you happy. But people that work with Linux generally know where all of the bodies are buried. They know where all of the files are. They know what every conf file does. And the other people that maybe don't work with it all the time, but it's part of their stack.
Yep.
Don't know where all those things are. Same thing with the Windows side. If you look at, I'll just use IIS as an example. IIS is not one configuration file. It's like, I think baseline, it's like 14, and then for every website and app pool you add, you get 1 or 2 more. So these are incredibly large amounts, count-wise, of files you need to watch to actually kind of correlate that with performance problems or with complete outages.
Right, and you came up with an interesting term for this, which was config drift.
Yes. Yeah, because I am 100% guilty of it. I will make a small change on a server, be like, seems to be working fine.
Right.
And then make another small change, and then another small change, and then another small change, and then at some point, things will not go well.
Right.
And understanding where my starting point was and where that got through to the end, and being able to roll back to that specific point.
Right, and but still remember the changes that you did intermediate that were good.
Yeah.
I just have to fix that one bad line from before. Yep. And the other thing is that, again, we're talking about cloud environments, so it's not just Kevin with his config drift. It's a team of, it's a cast of thousands, of people who are making small, minor, incremental, sometimes submitted into, an orchestration tool to push out later. Managing that kind of stuff is difficult. So I want to show what a server configuration management solution might look like. Okay. So here I'm looking at a server configuration monitor solution, and we've got a list of servers down the left, and I already know just by looking at that which one have good configurations that have not changed. That would be the green. Green is always good.
Green is good.
And which ones have had a change, and that doesn't mean it's bad necessarily, but it means something happened.
It's different than the baseline.
Right, which I've said, and then Next to that, the next column tells me what some of those changes are. The most recent, I can, filter and I can sort and I can search and all of those things. To take a look at what one particular device looks like, here's a Linux machine because I'm,
Linux, got it.
Yes.
And this one's actually running in Azure.
Hashtag Linux, and it's running on Azure. So again, we're not talking about something that's exclusively on-prem or exclusively cloud native. Configuration files are for everyone, no matter whether you're earthed or cloud. And to your point, you was talking about the baselines. I've set a baseline and I have 6 mismatches. Again, not bad, just something happened. So if I look under my Docker configuration, for example, I can see that just, something happened in the daemon JSON. Under Linux Essentials, which is a bundle of things that we're looking at, a bundle of files and directories and things that are in there. So I'm looking at that, and I'm actually going to take a look at that kernels in a minute. But scrolling down, I can see when the last change was in all these files. And for Linux sysadmins, these are meaningful areas. These are, again, to your point, this is where the bodies are buried. So being able to very quickly check off and say, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. This is an important thing to be able to do. And
even if this is just troubleshooting via exclusion.
Yes.
Not this, not this, not this.
Right, exactly. And finally, we've got Linux security and permissions, okay? All those PAM files.
Yeah, and these are just profiles that come out of the box with this that were applied. There are other ones you can custom write your own for, like if you actually have Nginx and you're running with a whole bunch of configuration files under Nginx, you basically say, I want to watch Nginx folder and all of the children folders for all the .conf files or what have you.
And when you're talking about especially text file monitoring, it can either be straight text file monitoring, tell me when there's a new line, tell me when anything changes, or it can be structured text files. So I know that this block might appear anywhere. It's going to drift, but I'm not going to get an alert if all that happened was because of a rebuild or whatever, all those same blocks moved around. I'm not going to get an alert that, everything's the same, it's just not in the same place.
You added a carriage return to the very end. Does that matter? No, that doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. So you can do either one. All right, so taking a look at that kernel file, this is what the change tracking might look like. So I can see that I've got some kernel elements that have been added or removed. Again, it was there, now it's out. It changed along the way, and so on and so forth.
Oh, and there's a big block we could skip because there's 17 unchanged lines.
Yes, and that's really just a UX UI issue. I don't need to scroll through hundreds of lines where nothing happened.
Because that's the problem with a lot of these figure captures is that you've got a lot of stuff that doesn't change, and literally if you change, 500 to 550, then all of a sudden everything will break. But you don't want to look at pages and pages of these things to try to find that one character out.
Again, troubleshooting by exclusion. I know there's nothing in those 17 or 1700 lines or whatever it is that's going to go. And so I can see where things have changed, what's been added, what's been removed very quickly. That gives you a sense of the overall configuration health on the box, which is, like we said, essential to being able to manage especially a large distributed environment. And this applies to containers. I had a conversation with another head geek, Thomas LaRock, about container monitoring through just configuration management. Now, that's not the only way to manage containers, but since containers is largely based on file status, those, again, that structured text, the XML and the JSON and all that, you want to be able to, that can give you another insight into your environment, whether it's cloud-based or whatever. So I don't want to say that this is the be-all, end-all conversation to server configuration management.
But it's part of the solution. You still need to make sure that if you run with automation, you have people checking that you got your QA, you got your steps and all that, and making sure that you are doing your regular routine monitoring, your CPU, your memory, your statistics.
Of course.
But this is just one additional part. So if you can see a change in any of those other metrics or any of the other data points, you can correlate that back with a potential change in configs.
Right, and I think the main thing to walk away from this video with is that configuration management isn't just for network devices anymore.
No.
It never was for network devices
only. It really
only.
wasn't. But iOS and JunoOS was really easy to get the flat files out of it.
Exactly, but now it's just as easy to get out of your Linux or your Windows or any of those other environments.
Exactly.
So I know that SolarWinds has a whole series of videos, SolarWinds lab videos. We also have ebooks and white papers that we've written for the last couple of years on this, and there's even a guerrilla guide that goes along with this particular Discovery Series video. So we want to thank everyone for joining us on this.
Thanks so much.